Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Modern Working Musician podcast. My name is Keegan Paluso, and I'm your host. I am a musician, educator, songwriter, producer, doer of musical things, and we have a very special treat for you today. We are featuring my brother, Keith Paluso, who is fresh off of season 15 of The Voice, where he made it into the top 24. He was originally a park ranger who put music away for good, really, until his son, my nephew, was born and decided to pick it back up. And now he has left park rangering and is a full-time musician after his time on The Voice. We're going to talk about what his life was like on the show, what he's up to now. And then for our Patreon subscribers, he is going to do a little songwriting session and talk about how he goes about doing that. If you are not a Patreon subscriber, it is very easy. $5 a month gets you access to everything that we have on there. Each podcast will feature new additional resources that you can learn and grow from. It is patreon.com/Keegan Paluso, KeeganPaluso. Thank you all so much. Like I said, $5 gets you access to everything we've got. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. We've got a lot of ground to cover in this interview, and it is fantastic. Thank you all so much again for your love and support, and we'll see you soon. All right, everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the Modern Working Musician, the podcast that each week has a special guest who pays the bills using music, and we find out what makes them tick, how they pay the bills, what special techniques they use. This week is my lifelong friend. I've known him my entire life because he was born before I was. My older brother, Mr. Keith Paluso. You might have seen him. He is fresh off of season 15 of NBC's The Voice. Made it into the top 24. He's a fantastic singer. He's a fantastic songwriter and guitar player.
Thanks, buddy.
Keith, thanks for being here on the show, man.
Dude, appreciate you having me.
We can go ahead and jump right in, man. Let's start with a little bit of backstory. I know how you got into playing music, but how, for the listeners at home, how did you get into music, man?
Well, mostly out of spite, almost, I think.
Out of spite?
You can cut that out later. But, I mean, we started playing music together when we were kids. But you're the one that really jumped us into that. You wanted a drum set for Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wanted a drum kit for Christmas. You wanted to start playing drums. And I was like, man, I can't. If Keegan's playing drums, I'd always wanted to play a musical instrument and kind of noodled around with Dad's old guitar, some here and there. But once you got a drum set, I was like, well, I've got to do it now. And so picked up guitar and started playing with you, and really through you and all the folks you were in band with, because I played ball and wasn't in band with you.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of learned through a window here and there, and then just added my own stuff in.
Yeah. Let's not discount the fact that you definitely put your work in as well on your own. Woodshedding and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely have always enjoyed a wide range of music, and been fairly dedicated in my own way to emulating the people that I've looked up to. I think I've learned most of my technical knowledge through either my own study or through seeing you do things. But I think from that aspect, I was much more free to kind of expand the things that I enjoyed myself.
I got you. Now, can you really recall one kind of game-changing moment back all those years ago where you're like, hey, man, like, this is not necessarily something I have to pursue. You know, this is something I can do and express myself in my own way. I don't have to always be attached to a band or a certain group of artists. But was there ever a moment where you're like, man, like, I can do the Keith thing myself, and I don't have to be attached to a certain group of people all the time?
Well, I think my story as far as music goes is really just picking up fairly recently. Because I put it away for so long. I mean,
Yeah.
you were there. I mean, we got to college. You went the music route, and I went and became a park ranger.
Yeah.
And I hung it up. I put all my guitars in a closet and wasn't really playing them. And I think that nagged at me for a long time when I'd hear stuff. Listen to people that I kind of idolize musically, like Martin Sexton or Mark Broussard or J.J. Gray, people like that. I hear it, and it just kind of made me ache to not try to go make a living doing it, not try to live the dream or anything like that, but just to do it, just for the sake of doing it. And that's where I picked up last year.
Okay, cool. So the game changing, music defining moments are way more recent.
Yeah, and they're not fantastic like revelation moments either.
Yeah, I got you.
It's me kind of wallowing and wrestling with myself behind the scenes. It's not anything I witnessed. It's something that I fought with myself about for a long time.
Yeah, I really like how you put that though, because a lot of people they have this defining moment where it's like, oh, okay, this is something I can do, and you speak about creating music as something like I have to do it. Like it's not it's something that nags at you. Like you have art that needs to be made, and like you wrestle with whether or not you should do it to the point to where it's like, I've got to do this. This is what needs to happen.
Right.
But is that how you would kind of put it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't do it. I think everyone is focused on whether or not they can make a living doing it or whether or not they're going to somehow make it. Like, I feel like the definition of making it in the music industry is so commonly thought of as being like tigers on a gold leash rich.
Yeah.
Which is silly. I mean, like I mean, just creating music for the sake of doing it. Because when I started playing again, I was playing by myself. You remember I was just texting you songs.
Yeah.
You were the only person that was hearing those songs. I was just texting them to you. And then I was just doing covers and putting them on YouTube for my like 15 subscribers or whatever, just doing it for the sake of doing it, not because I had this big elaborate career plan or anything like that, just for the sake of enjoying it.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'm glad. Well, not to jump too far ahead, but do you still get that same sense of fulfillment out of your art now, or does it feel a whole lot more like a job at this point?
There are aspects of it that I think that I'm just very new to making my run at this full time and professionally, and there are aspects of it that you can get burnt out on, and most of that to me lies in the kind of the entrepreneurial, administrative side of it, which I do find that I enjoy. But the creativity, I feel like for me, it's only getting better because this is the first time that I've made it my sole priority as far as my job. Because I am a reckless workaholic, whether I'm park rangering or I'm washing dishes in a restaurant. All the jobs that I've had, I show up on time, ready to go, get it done. And this is the first time in my life ever that I've gotten to wake up in the middle of the night and say, "Oh, I've got an idea. This is what I'm going to work on." Boom, and then that's my focus. That's what I get to laser in on and work as hard as I can on. Cool. And so that means that I'm getting better. And so it's not a job. It's just me being able to be fiercely motivated at it.
Very cool. So you can guiltlessly work on your art now.
Right. Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome, man. All right. So not to beat a dead horse, but we're gonna go ahead and jump into the voice thing because we're fresh off the boat. So I mean, I was there. How did the How did the voice thing happen, man? Because it was a pretty serendipitous occurrence.
I had no, I don't know. I don't know, because I was at the time that I auditioned and everything. I had been a park ranger at David Crockett State Park in Lawrenceburg for 3 years. I'd been a Tennessee State Park Ranger for 5 years full time, and had just poured my absolute heart and soul into that career. Just worked myself to death. And there were good moments in that and bad moments that made me who I am, and I'm appreciative of it. But at the time, I just started playing music again, and I don't mean like playing out in bars or playing shows. I mean like just picked the guitars up and dusted them off and was putting up cover song videos on YouTube. And my wife Bethany that was right when she had our son Kip, and I went on paternity leave. And I had not taken hardly any time off the whole time I was a ranger, so I had loads of time built up. And so I took the full amount of paternity leave, and I think that Bethany was the main one that really encouraged me to start going out and playing. And the more I went out and played, the more confident I was. And the more of a taste I got of it, and was like, I think I want to make a run at this. And I'm also 30 years old, so that's where you need to start thinking about some sort of Hail Mary attempt.
Yeah,
and,
you're gonna make a move, you better do it.
Yeah, let's do this thing. And so an audition for The Voice came around, and I went and gave it my best and forgot about it. And maybe just a couple of months later, I got a call back out of the blue. I remember we lived on the park at the time, and I came home from my lunch break, and I just saw somebody just drive crazy fast right by my house. I was like, well, I'm going to go take care of that. And then I got a phone call, and it turned out, as I was answering the phone as I walked out the door, and it turned out to be a producer. And they were like, hey, man, are you ready to come to L.A.? And I was like, oh, my gosh, this is happening. And so that is when the gears started turning, where I was thinking, if I have done well enough, or if I'm, I guess, marketable enough that the people at NBC think I'm worth having on the show, then maybe I've got a shot at doing this.Maybe not being tigers on a gold leash, Rich, but as when you come from a lifestyle like I do, it doesn't take much to make you happy.
Yeah.
The less you require to be happy, the less it takes to sustain you.
Very cool. Very cool. So you get out to LA, you audition. So what was it like leading up to the blind auditions?
That was probably, I guess when you were asking earlier about a defining moment, where I said, all right, like it's time. All of those moments probably happened out there.
Okay.
Because immediately once you get in, you're getting ready for the blind auditions, you are sequestered with all the other contestants, and at that point it has gone from 40,000 some odd people that have auditioned down to a little over 100. So you're there with mostly, I think maybe Cameron Marlowe and I were the only people that had full-time jobs, that didn't already play professionally, play for a living as their sole source of income, or were kids, So just being in that kind of environment where there's nothing else you can do except for play music with these people, get pointers and feedback from all of them, and kind of figure out what they do in life and get to know kind of the decisions that brought them to where they are nowadays. That's what really set things moving for me, is to Chris Cruzy is one of my best friends now, to be like, well, here's what Chris Cruzy did. And it didn't come down to most of them, it didn't come down to like a defining moment. Some dude didn't just walk up to them and say, hey, here's all your expenses for a year paid. It took hard work, and it took motivation. Yeah. And those are two things that I do have. Not a lucky break as much as I have the ability to work hard everybody has that. So
I think that's one of the best things I like to hear you say, is, especially on a podcast like this, because for a long time, music has been considered a pipe dream. Like you play till you get your lucky break,
right?
You get your big break, and then you make the best of what you can. And to for you to go out and meet all these people that are on this stage, who are doing just fine, and they're like, look, this is something you can do.
Right.
You just got to figure it out.
Right. And I think probably one of the best realizations that any of those people or anybody that can have, we may get into kind of a strategy later, but the first thing I think, as far as realizing that you can make a run of it full time, or you can have another strategy, is to, especially when you're planning on playing shows and stuff like that, is to realize, for the most part, no one is coming to save you. Mm-hmm. Like, you've got to put in the work yourself. And you might, like, I got a lucky phone call, said, hey, do you want to come be on The Voice? But I'd put in a lot of work before that. A lot of time driving around singing in the car, trying to sound like Chris Cornell and Mark Broussard. But but after that, you got to realize that no one's going to come save you unless you are trying to save yourself. Just don't even act like anybody's listening to you. Just put in the work.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something to take into account. Is when people talk about you get a phone call, and next thing you know, you're on this stage. Considering that you're lucky break, everyone still needs to realize that you are incredibly excuse me, you're proficient on your instrument to the point of virtuosity, which is why you get those phone calls. So you got, like, that phone call wasn't a lucky break because you had to put in the work to get that phone call.
Right.
So that that comes from being in the practice room and stuff. And we often talk about music business techniques, how to market yourself, how to get your name in front of people and engagement and stuff. But I think first and foremost, you've got to be proficient on your instrument.
Right.
If you're bad at what you do, you're only just pushing a bad product on people. And I think we can talk about, like, how you started, just like by putting songs on YouTube and stuff like that. But your real start was getting really good at your instrument before doing any of that.
Thanks.
I
think it didn't really set in with me at the time that I was putting in all that work, because in my mind I was just driving around in my patrol vehicle singing.
Yeah.
But that's legitimate practice.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I guess that worked out.
Cool. So you turn a chair, and then there's a little bit of time between, and we can edit this out if you're not supposed to talk about it. But can you talk about the fact that there is dead time between, like, the pre-tape shows and the live shows?
The battles. I think it's common knowledge that the blind auditions, the battles, and the knockouts are all pre-taped.
Okay, cool.
And there's a little bit of a break here and there before you go back to the live shows.
I just didn't want to.
That far.
I didn't want any faux pas here.
No.
Okay, so how was your how did your attitude change going from, like, the pre-tape stuff to that little break in between all that and the live shows?
Yeah, I mean, I got a pretty good boost in confidence. Like, not in a way that made me, like, get a big head about anything, but I felt kind of verified, because I mean, I think of all the things, as you get better, you should try to be more humble, and so I feel like sometimes I might jump on the far end of that, to where I sell myself short, and I'm my own worst critic by far.
I got you.
But in that situation, right before the blinds, I was thinking about, I was super nervous for months ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
And every time
understandably
I thought about
so,
my stomach, like, flipped,
Yeah.
But then the night before, I was my roommate at the time, Mitch Buman. He's from North Carolina, super nice guy. We were talking about it, and I just decided that I'd put in that work, and this was that collective experience was one of the coolest things. And if that next day, if my blind audition day was my day, and that was the only day I get, that I was just going to give it my best shot. And so I think maybe not getting on a team. You know, Blake turned and he blocked Adam, and Adam turned, so they both wanted me on their team, and I ended up on Blake's team. Not even really that. Yeah, that was cool because then I get to keep going on the show. Mm. But that was not the main feeling that I think that I took away from it. It's the way that you can conquer your fear by replacing it with gratitude. That was the most empowering idea that ever happened to me.
That's fantastic.
Was being so nervous and terrified, and then right before it happened, just being overwhelmingly grateful that I got the opportunity and knew that I was just going to give it the very best I absolutely could and was going to make the best of it. Instead of being so scared of what was going to happen, just live right in that moment and be grateful for it. And that, I feel like, can be applied to so many situations in life. That's probably a game-changing life moment for me. So I think that not just getting on a team on like the TV show and all that stuff, but being able to conquer your fear by replacing it with gratitude. That was the main thing after Blinds.
I love that, man. Yeah, replacing fear with gratitude. That's man, that'll get you up in the morning.
Thanks, man.
You know, I'm afraid to go down and do my workout. I'm grateful that I get to go and get my butt kicked.
That's absolutely right.
That's fantastic, man. All right, so, we talked about that, and I think what's really cool, you talked about the boost in confidence. I think getting the button hit and the chair turn and stuff, it pretty much verifies you're like, okay, this is what I do now. Like, yeah. Like, I am Keith. I'm no longer Keith, the park ranger who sings. Like, I'm Keith, the singer who is also a park ranger.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing my park ranger uniform now.
But I mean, that's cool, man. I love how you're still you. And doing your thing.
You still. I mean, you can. I feel like maybe it's just the kind of maybe the style of music I play and what I like to write, but it is absolutely crucial that you maintain and you build upon your story in life. You're not just a voice or you're not just a guitar solo. You know what I mean? You have to be a storyteller. And part of that is collecting good stories and actually being a person yourself. So many people that, there are a lot of people that are good players, that are great musicians, but you have to be someone too. You have to be somebody else.
Yeah, actually, somebody sent me a message the other day. It said, like, I'm having a really hard time with writer's block and stuff. What do you do? And I told him, like, pretty much all of my art is a reflection of my experience or some things I experience. Whether I'm telling a story that's not related to me, it's something that I've experienced somehow, either in first person or third person. So concentrating on living your day-to-day life is going to just fill you back up with those things and those influencers for you to just go and make better art. So sometimes focusing on, getting out of your head and just living your life is some of the best inspiration you can get.
Right. You got to be endlessly curious. Well, that's what I draw upon, and we'll kind of get into writing and stuff later, I think. Right.
We're definitely going to talk about writing.
But I draw upon like memories usually, or kind of my experiences as far as writing goes, and then just make sure that those are feelings that everyone has. You may not have the exact same experience as I have, but we're both people and we've had similar feelings before. Make sure it's relatable. So you have to be a person that actually does stuff to have experiences that are relatable to people. Yeah. So you got to be able to balance that practice time where you're spending in a room. Kind of, I think you definitely need to be able to balance between experiencing the world on the outside and then coming into the practice room and being able to retell that story.
Yeah, very good. So not, I don't want this entire podcast to be a voice aftermath interview and like, how was the voice? Because I'm sure you've done plenty of those at this point.
Yeah, I'm still doing them.
Oh, you're still doing it? Like, how was it, Keith?
Yeah.
How did you pick up the guitar?
It's great, man. It was a wonderful opportunity, and I'm I fully realized that I got to do something that most people would be super excited to do.
Very cool. Well, like in the theme of the podcast, this is more of an educational podcast, and we've talked about a lot of the high points and stuff like that, but I really do think it would be disingenuous and also less educational if we didn't ask, what are some of the hardest lessons you've had to learn throughout this process so far?
You mean throughout maybe the voice? Or...
Yeah, the voice, and then, pretty much the career change,
I think we kind of touched on a little bit of it earlier, but you have to, like I said, you're not going to, for most of us, you're not going to be playing a show somewhere and you've stacked up all these 30-minute set list shows every night of the week because you're trying to play out every night. And then, so there's not some sweaty guy's not going to walk up to you and say, "Son, it's your lucky day," and hand you a big stack of money. That's not going to happen to most of us. You have to have a strategy and have a career plan and be able to fix all your own problems. And that's where I kind of get excited because I get to figure out how to make my own way. But then it's also absolutely terrifying, and it also weighs on you. And I have a wife and I have a 1-year-old little boy. And so being the sole provider of income for that family, it is terrifying to jump out into the unknown to do that. So you have to be prepared to be able to work under pressure.
Yeah. If that isn't a motivator, I don't know what is.
That's a hard lesson to learn. It's a hard, it's like you can lose some sleep over it.
Yeah.
And I have, but it's also invigorating at the same time.
Yeah. It gives you a reason to get up in the morning, sometimes at midnight in the morning, and yeah, cool, man.
I think one of the hardest lessons, I guess, to summarize, one of the hardest lessons to learn is to suck it up when you're tired and figure out how to solve your own problems.
That's cool.
Have a plan, hope for the best, but have a plan for the worst.
And I think that's that's the kind of the fear that I think drives a lot of people away from wanting to do this thing, is because it's really easy to just go get that 9 to 5, play music on the weekends, and then hope some dude's going to hand you a stack of money, and then blame it on somebody else when it doesn't work out.
Right.
But when you get that safety net, kind of taken out, it gives you the ability to be that much more grateful in your successes, and also be that more creative, in your problem solving.
Sure. And I think for anybody with a good head on their shoulders and kind of the ability to make good music, it really to be able to drop into it full time, like performing full time, if that's what you want to do, or if you want to do something different. All it takes is pressure and time. I just freed up my time to where I had more pressure and time to give.
Pressure and time.
Man, Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, Shawshank Redemption.
Pressure and time. You can learn how to do anything.
Very cool, man. All right, so we're post The Voice. What are your shenanigans now? We're gonna jump into what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Some of your methodology behind why you're doing what you're doing, and then let's go from there. So what are you up to now? So
I'm doing some things that are a little bit different and maybe a little unconventional. I think when you do something like The Voice or America's Got Talent or something like that, where you're suddenly thrust into the public eye so quickly, you need to have, because a lot of those people watch TV but they don't go to shows, and those are people that are appreciative of you and they enjoy your talent and all that stuff. But if you want to make a living, you've got to figure out how to somehow turn that attention into a career. And so I think personally that where we are in the music industry, you don't have to have an enormous record deal to make a living. So many people don't. And you don't have to have an enormous record deal to make good music either, as we have very well found out in your studio here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You make great stuff pretty easily. And so what I have been I've decided to do, instead of looking for record deals, I've actually like been approached by some record companies and some labels and stuff like that, and decided that I was going to go at it a different and unconventional way. So right before I left The Voice, I looked up all the other Memphis-based voice contestants, and found Grace Askew, and she does a 365 Tribe daily songwriting exercise where she takes prompts off of Instagram and she writes a song every single day and goes live with it. And I think that's the most honest way of telling stories, which is the point of music anyway. I feel like that's the most honest and intriguing project, because what you're doing is you're skipping where you can go into a studio and perfection is attainable.
We can cut it out.
Perfection is easily attainable in a studio, but not necessarily honest.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to Grace and said, hey, I've done a few daily songwriting things before where I challenged myself to write songs for 30 days. Did one where I was texting them to you secretly, and then did another 7-day one right before our son Kit was born. And I said, hey, I'd like to work with you on this. I think it's a very cool project, and I think we would be better if we kind of supported each other on this, because she's almost through with the year. She has like 30 days left to go.
That's great.
January 1 will be her full 1 year of daily songwriting and going live with them on Instagram at noon every day.
That's fantastic.
It's just unbelievable dedication.
Yeah.
And I think that part of it is, you're playing live music on the internet. You're gonna you're gonna mess up the guitar parts. You're gonna be off key here and there. You're gonna be off tempo. You're not gonna line up with a metronome perfectly, but you're telling a story freshly after it's written. And I think that's beautiful and honest and genuine. So I'm doing that, and I will. I just finished up my first week today, where I write the song live on YouNow. It's a live streaming platform. They recently partnered me too, so as people tip me and stuff like that, I'm monetarily compensated for my performance on there. And then after I write the song on YouNow, I go live with it on Instagram. Then I go live with it on Facebook, and then I take one of my practice takes and put it on YouTube, and then I take the audio from one of my practice takes and put it up on Bandcamp, where I sell the demo tracks for $1. And I think that people appreciate the honesty of it, because they've been downloading these demo tracks that I recorded off of a video, but it's real music, and you're cutting out the middleman of a record company, where if you were signed onto a record label and you wrote a song and then the record label decided to cut it and they put it on iTunes and all that stuff, you're going to make 20 cents off of each song that you just pull. You might have told your whole life story, the most significant thing that ever happened to you, and that record label now owns it, and then they put it on sale for $1, and you're going to make 20 cents. But instead of that, I just wrote a song in an hour that was a great exercise as far as helping me reach my creative focus. It told a valuable story about my life, and then I put it out, and if a person buys that, they buy it directly from me. You just bought the art straight from the artist, and I think that's beautiful.
That's awesome, man. I like how you said that too, like how honest it is and intimate. And it's almost like all the high points that you hit of doing that kind of reminds me of like why people go to concerts.
Absolutely.
So it's like you've recreated the concert in a digital format almost.
Absolutely. And that's where I was going with it, is that we live in an age where I don't think everybody kind of complains about everyone being stuck in social media and stuff like that. And nobody's coming out to shows and stuff like that nowadays. But people are, if you go on platforms like YouNow or whatever the other live streaming platforms are, a lot of times it's just people talking. They're just chatting. And so people are yearning for a real and genuine human connection. And if you can do shows and stuff like that, but there are real people out there that spend a lot of time on the internet that are yearning for real, genuine interaction with people. And so I think it's a beautiful group of people to reach out to.
Yeah. It's kind of like Eric Whitaker when he did the virtual choir thing. Somebody was in Nome, Alaska, and the only way they could connect to the world was via satellite.
Right.
And they were a part of a choir finally, and they're like, I got to make music with these people.
Right.
And yeah, we talk about people going to incredible lengths to connect to one another.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool how you point out too that just because it's online doesn't make it artificial. It can still be a genuine human connection, even though it's digital.
I think if anything, it's kind of weird because we're used to real. We're used to online being its own thing, and then real experience being its own thing. But last night, I live streamed with a guy from London where we did a song swap for like an hour and a half.
That's cool.
And we did a song swap, trading original songs for an hour and a half, where there were people on the chat from like Jordan, Brazil, Australia. So you're connecting with people all over the world. And it's an entire, like, you just had a conversation and poured your heart out to somebody and like, hey, what time is it there now? And it's like, it's like a ridiculous 12-hour difference or whatever. So I think there's a valuable amount of insight to be gained about the world through an experience like that.
Very cool. So, since coming off the show, you've moved into the You Now thing, and you've talked about turning down labels and things like that. So, what was your litmus test for what to do and what not to do? Because you have a lot of options coming off of a show like at The Voice. There are people that instantaneously sign to a label. There are people, there's a guy that won The Voice that's on Patreon, that's like solely on Patreon now or something like that. So what was kind of your litmus test of like, this is what I want to do and this is what I don't want to do in order to kind of forge this new path of yours?
Well, I think that usually if I've got to make a decision, I'd try to think about what's the most honest way to be myself. Because I firmly believe that if you do your very best, put your best foot forward and be the most real and best version of yourself, most of the time that will pay off. So when you start to compromise that things start to get tangled. And so I could probably like go and sign on with someone that had a vision for me. And after a few years, it might work out, but after a few years, I might have painted myself into a corner, so to speak, on what I liked and what I wanted to be. But in this case, I think that for the most part, if you're trying to make that jump and you've got some options, most of the time those people, there's a lot of that you can get done yourself.
Yeah.
And learn how to do it yourself. Only take yourself up on those options if it's something that you absolutely can't get done yourself. Because it's better to learn the full scale of operations before you jump in and have no idea what anybody's doing. They're just telling you to show up.
Yeah, I always think that's great advice, especially when people talk about hiring a manager. I get that a lot when I'm working with new artists or something like that. When it comes to production work, they'll have a manager to say they have a manager, and then they'll ask me for a lot of advice.
Yeah,
and one like, your manager should know this.
Absolutely, I think that you can. I think that the very first person that you not necessarily a manager, but I think a manager and a booking agent can be sometimes the same person. But I think that the first people I would take on as a member of your team when it absolutely is not feasible to do it by yourself, and as soon as you can financially compensate that person in some way, is either a booking agent and or a social media person, because it takes, especially the social media part. Takes a while, and you also have to figure out how to make sure that person is genuinely representing you in a way where you trust them to talk to your people, because every person that wants, I stay up really late at night replying to like comments and messages and stuff like that as much as I can, because every person there is genuinely interested in you. So the least you can do, until it's just killing you not to, is to reach out to that person and say, hey, I appreciate you supporting me.
Yeah.
But then, from a practical sense, social media person and a booking agent, because a booking agent is someone that's going to be able to kind of guard that gate for you, because you can agree to do things and be you're just super nice version of yourself, but that can sometimes sell yourself short, especially if you're trying to make a living at it. So you need someone. I mean, a great example would be BB King. BB King was super incredibly nice guy, just incredible. And if he had made all of his decisions on his own, he would have been so broke.
Yeah.
Because he would have used up every Saturday playing at his best friend's cousin's birthday party or whatever for no money at all. He needed his booking agent was a notorious jerk. And together they could bridge that gap, because BB King could say like, "Hey, yeah, I would love to play here. You need to talk to this person." And that person could, I mean, whether or not they don't have to be a jerk.
Yeah.
But those are the people to where you need to be able to go in there and be nice and be courteous and be professional and talk to people. But then when it gets down to the nuts and bolts of what's going to happen as far as the logistics and the pay and the cut of your shows and of your performances and of your appearances, suddenly you have to be able to go from being genuine to being like real and professional and like, okay, in business mind. And sometimes that really puts people off.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be able to flip that switch.
Yeah. And sometimes when you do, and I came from like a law enforcement background, and so I can be like joking and happy and fun and stuff like that, and then like go into a business mindset, and sometimes that really like puts people off.
Yeah.
When it has to be done, it's a necessary part of the work. But I think it's easier and a better result overall if you have someone else do that negotiating for you.
Yeah, I really like that. I want to take a little bit of a back step, because you talked about being the most genuine person of yourself. And you look at people nowadays like Terry Crews, who he's blowing up everywhere. The Rock, the same thing. And I feel like these guys especially are prime examples of being the best versions of themselves.
Absolutely.
Like, do you, in your opinion, do you feel like, I don't necessarily want to say society, but like media is moving in that direction because of things like the internet and YouTube and stuff like that? Do you think we're moving in it? Do you think like celebrities now are people crave more honesty in a celebrity than anything else? Do you think that's a bigger attribute now than it used to be?
I think so, and I hope so, because I think we're in a situation where we're there are a lot of new things coming with the way people are thinking, because we're globally becoming more connected to so many walks of life and philosophies that it's important to be accepting and open to new opinions and new ways of people doing things and going about their world. But that doesn't necessarily make it okay to, like, it's okay to be yourself, but not if you're a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so where you see people like The Rock, when you see people like Dwayne Johnson and Terry Crews excel for being genuine and being real, it's because they push themselves to be the best they can be, not just because I don't think, I don't know them personally, but I would seriously doubt that people, especially if you look at them just from like how in shape they are. Yeah, they may be motivated career-wise to stay in shape now because they've built careers on being super jacked, right? But they had to start somewhere. And that doesn't take anything but motivation to be the best version of yourself. It's in pushing yourself to be the best you can be. And then eventually it paid off for them, and so they have to maintain it. But people like that are driven, motivated only by being the best versions of themselves, and it has paid off, so they have to maintain it.
Very cool.
And so I think that I think that there's a lot that we can take from that, and that it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be exactly who you are. Figure out who you are and be the best version of that person.
And then don't be a jerk.
Yeah, I mean, I firmly think.
Yeah, if you look at yourself and you're a jerk, then change that.
I feel there's a time for everyone to be aggressive.
Yeah.
There's a time for everyone to not let others walk on you and stuff. But,
I was just making it.
Yeah. Well,
I
don't mean like be a doormat. You have to. Yeah, sometimes you just got to give some people some real talk, but make sure you're genuine and compassionate and real.
Oh yeah. Elementary school feature, man.
What's up?
I know how to turn it on. Be like, sit your butt down.
I've seen it.
Oh yeah, Keith did come to my classroom the other day.
Sure did.
And got to see me bring the heat. It was beautiful. I was like, is that how we sit in my classroom? And the kid was like, no. It's like, sit like we're supposed to.
I was in the corner laughing like, how you got in trouble?
Oh, dude, it's pretty funny. Not to, I don't know, go off the rails, but yeah, I was in the front office one day, and our principal was just giving it to a kid, just chewing them upside one down, and just rah, 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 rah. And I was over in the corner with one of the office staff going, get him. And then after that kid left, I told my principal, I was like, I was over in the corner telling you to get him. She just busted out laughing. It's hilarious.
Yep.
Okay. So, very cool, man. We've talked about, what you're doing now, what you're getting into. You write one song every day.
Yep.
So, let's go ahead and
good
dive
or bad.
in. Yeah. Good or bad. So, let's go ahead and dive into that because, songwriting is a hot thing now. People want to be songwriters, and I feel like that's a hotter thing now than it used to be, like just being a songwriter.
I think that's because recording software and equipment is so widely available now.
Yeah, it is.
You can be a songwriter.
Yeah, none of this stuff was available when we were like in school,
or
it was just too foreign to us. But no, it was. So very cool, man. So you write a song a day.
Yep.
So tell me about how that starts. I know you said something about Instagram.
Yeah. So what I do is every night at about 5:30 p.m. Central Time, I post a random photo that I took somewhere on Instagram, and I ask people to write a 6-word story that was inspired by that photo. And so that engages people and lets them be creative as well. It's 6 words. You can take if you want. I'm doing 365 days of reckless creativity here. If you want to join along with me, all you got to do is write down 6 words a day, right?
Yeah. So
they write down a 6-word story, and that runs somewhere between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. the next day. And so far, I just finished my 7th day today. I just posted my daily photo a little while ago tonight. Does average about probably between 20 and 50 6-word stories right now. And I take all of those and I write them down on a little piece of paper, and I put them in my old park ranger hat, like the big Smokey the Bear campaign hat.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And every day at about somewhere between 10 and 10:30, I go on YouNow, or I had some connectivity problems the other day on YouNow, so I did it myself. So I put them all in there, shake them up, and I pull one 6-word story out of there. And then I write a song based on that 6-word story. So a lot of times, like make sure for like an hour or so a day, I sit around and just noodle on guitar and come up with licks, maybe chord progressions and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That way I've got a steady stream of ideas going, and then I just pick one and run with it.
That's super cool. I like how you preface it with that. Like I mean, I'm a giant practice nerd, you know me. So I love when anybody comes back to it. I sit down and practice because I do hear a lot like I just show up and play and stuff. But no, like the fact that you take the time to practice and come up with new things, and that you can practice being creative.
It's really important. I mean, and a lot of it comes. Maybe that doesn't make it. Maybe that makes it sound like it's not as organic to come in with a little bit of homework done. But I mean, like I'm a dad of a 1-year-old. I've got I can't spend 6 hours a day writing a song. I write every one of those songs is written in like an hour and a half or less.
Yeah.
So come in with a few ideas. I read my 6-word story. I'm like, how does that make me feel? And then I go through kind of a creative process. And then once I get that first, and I love hooks, get really excited about a hook. And usually I come up with the hook as the very first thing. The hook is the very first part of the song I come up with. So where a lot of people, and that's what Grace and I, when we were writing a song together, we were just kind of fascinated each other because it's so different. She starts with the first word. Like, she starts at the beginning of the song, and I start on the chorus. I start at the tail end of the chorus, actually, and then build the rest of the song around the hook.
That's really interesting. See, like, you know, when I write, it kind of is all over the place, you know, because, you know, back when I did the Small Time Big Sound records, I learned from a lot of different songwriters who do things. You know, some people start with the hook. There's sometimes, you know, like A Lot on My Mind, one of those songs that I wrote, like, that started with the hook. I was driving. I had a lot on my mind. Yeah. And that's how it started, you know, and then other songs, you know, they start with the very first. Like, I start with whatever is the coolest, and then it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, that's kind of I mean,
you start with the best thing, and then it just gets worse.
It's not true.
No, I'm just kidding.
Generally speaking, I usually start with a chorus and a hook first.
That's cool.
Sometimes you got to start off the first word, and then it'll just go from there. But yeah, so I write a song, and I do it live on you now. That's why I like to come in with some guitar ideas, so that I'm not sitting there creating dead air when people are watching me and giving comments and stuff like that. You want them to be engaged. You want them to participate, but you also want them to be entertained too.
Yeah.
So then
it's kind of like going to like Shogun or Benihana, where it's like,
right,
you're here to see a show, but all the food has been prepped beforehand.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't think that the lyrics are actually happening like in real time, and I'm explaining why I think that lyric is, or they'll give me an idea and I'll go with it, which is cool.
That's super cool.
And then so once the song is pretty much like 90% done, and you know, like after you write a song, you really need to practice those, like practice the changes, you know, all the little breaks and stuff in there, and that's just practice. It just comes down to running it. So I don't make those people sit through that. So I might like play another couple of songs, or like, you know, where's everybody from, and then sign off for the day, and then I'll run that song for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes by myself, usually until I'm just sick of running it, and then I go live with it on Instagram, kind of explain the story of the day and all that stuff. Then I go live with it on Facebook, and I do it again. Somehow I do fine on the first run through Instagram, and when I get to Facebook, I always just catastrophically mess up. I mean, just like hitting wrong notes, like I don't know, like I'm supposed to be way down here, and then I'll just be like making horrible noises on guitar. I don't know what it is on Facebook, but yeah. So then I do that. And then I splice together a video and put it on YouTube later, and I take the audio from it and put it on Bandcamp. So it's just a tremendous amount of work, but it makes you fast. It makes you good. It makes you good at it.
Can you see how see how your writing process has evolved since doing this? Yes. I know it's only been a week, but I mean, even from back when you were writing songs, when you and I were writing songs together and stuff, how has your songwriting process evolved?
I think when you're throwing them down that quick, there are a few things that I think the main points to everyday songwriting, not just writing a song every day, but then performing it live on social media, is that you start to be, especially if you're someone like me, where like you're your own worst critic. If I listen to a recording of myself, and if I didn't hit that tone, not just the note, if I didn't hit the note right, but if I didn't hit the tone, like just the right amount of rasp, just the right amount of openness perfectly, I get mad at myself. Like, you messed that up. Let's start it over. And I think it's a beautiful thing when you finally start to become okay with your own imperfections. And that bleeds over from your musical performances to just your lifestyle, is being okay with being imperfect and and allowing people to see your imperfections is I think a beautiful thing. But from a practical standpoint, you become much more okay with being outside of the box that you normally want to put yourself in. And a lot of times I'm guilty of the same thing when I wasn't writing songs all the time. You're more like, oh, who do I want to be? What kind of music do I like? What kind of music do I want to play? What do you want to do? And when you're just focused on serving a song, on like taking an idea, taking a memory, taking a feeling, and turning it into a song, it doesn't matter what style it is. You're just there for the day. You're just there to serve the song, serve the story.
That's
so
cool.
It doesn't matter if you are a Chris Stapleton wannabe or if you're, an Avril Lavigne wannabe. Like, you're just there to serve the song that day and do the best of your ability. So style doesn't matter anymore. How you want to represent yourself as an artist doesn't matter anymore. You're just there to create. You're just there to tell that story. And so having the boundaries of trying to be who you're trying to market yourself as stylistically, having those down just kind of opens up a lot of new things to where, like, today, like the day before yesterday, I did a song that was like a folk song, like straight folky song. And then the day before that, I did one that was just a straight funk song. Done a couple of just straight funk songs, some folky songs, a good like tear in my beer country song. And then today, I swear, a lot of the comments I got on You Now was like, that sounds like it was written by Seal and it could be on a 90s Batman remake. And so
Val Kilmer, we're looking at you.
I mean, like Val Kilmer would do the Batman thing, where he couldn't turn his head, so he'd be like, "Whoa."
Val Kilmer's my favorite Batman. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, samesies.
Y'all can go somewhere. Val Kilmer was a great Batman.
Samesies. That's how I feel. But yeah, so I think that when you're focused on output and retelling the story, you lose your ego. You lose who you want to be and just be yourself.
I like that, man. Because I know a lot of my writing these days, and that's, man, to be honest, that's exactly what I needed to hear. A lot of my writing these days, I get so in my head, it's like, this has to be a masterpiece in this certain style or this, that, and the other, to where, like, I get paralysis by analysis and it takes me forever to finish a song. And, doing something like that, you don't have time to do that.
Right.
You just got to do it.
They're not going to be, not all of them are going to be keepers either.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it's the same way as, like, when we're in elementary school where you're doing your times tables and stuff. Mm-hmm. You weren't actually solving any real problems. You were just practicing multiplication. And so
repetition.
Right. If I'm practicing songwriting, I'm getting to where I can throw songs at it. It might not be a good song, but in my case, some of the songs that I didn't think were good turned out to be some of everyone's favorites. Mm-hmm. And then some of the ones that I thought were going to be awesome while I was writing them, like, made me tear up while I was writing them. Later on, I'm like, that's not so great. And so just serve the song. Stop worrying about how it makes you look or whatever, and just do it.
Yeah, just write good tunes and the rest will follow.
Just write good music and worry about the rest of it later.
That's awesome. So for those of you who are avid listeners of the podcast, which we don't have any because this is only our second episode, but we will do a how-to or we will be doing a feature songwriting session with Keith on my Patreon, patreon.com/Keegan Paluso. $5 a month, get you access to everything that's on there, how-to videos, exercises, PDFs, and soon to be a how-to session.
You know what we should do on that songwriting?
What should we do?
Thing? We should do the exact same thing I do for mine. You post a photo on the Instagram page, and then we'll do a 6-word story, and then you and I'll straight up film us writing a song right there.
Dude, I like the sound of that. Yeah, that's fantastic.
That may have been what you were planning it anyway. Hope I didn't give that away.
No, that's not.
We'll do the exact same.
I didn't think about the Instagram thing, and I love that idea.
We'll do the straight up 365 tribe method. I'll tell Grace we're going to do it too.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, well, thank you so much for that, dude. So one thing I did want to dive into, one question I wanted to ask you, you're a lot of your singing growing up came from, like, singing in the car. Yeah. On Chris Cornell, Mark Broussard, and stuff like that.
Martin Sexton, for sure.
How would you say that how do you treat your instrument differently now that you are a career singer?
Very, very important to. I think the biggest thing vocally is there is no substitute for me. Maybe because maybe my ears are no good, but there's no substitute whatsoever with doing a proper vocal warm up every day. Whether you're going to sing that day, and for me, whether you're going to sing that day or not, because for me, it not only helps your tone and helps your control, it calibrates the ear. Absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
And if I don't do them, I may be singing every day. I noticed this yesterday because I'm working on a new schedule right now with the daily songwriting and all that stuff. Didn't work in my daily warm-ups and my daily vocal exercises for like 2 days. And I feel like you skip one day, you'll notice in the pitchiness and in the tone. You skip 2 days, everybody else will too.
I gotcha.
So absolutely crucial. And I also noticed, when I found out I was going to go do the blind audition, I immediately found a vocal warm-up, like a proper vocal warm-up, and then found a real good set of vocal exercises. You can find them on Spotify. Shoot, we may even link to the ones.
Yeah, we can. If you want to send me those links, we'll link them.
We'll do the exact same ones.
YouTube description below, and then for those of you that are listening, they'll be on the podcast website. Yeah, so I'll link those.
One set, the set I use first is a male baritone warm up. It's not super rangy. It's just great for your diction and great for calibrating the ear and getting things started. And the second one I use is for me, what is it? You listened to it once. What's it for, actually? What voice is it for? It's like for a soprano.
I think it's a tenor one.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe,
it's a tenor one. I don't know. The alto one is. I think it's a tenor one.
So I worked through that whole range on that one, but make sure I make sure I do the baritone one first to get good and warmed up, so that then on the next one I can really stretch, really get to work on it. And so I at least do the baritone one every day.
Cool. And this is what I use a lot in my lessons, and you might be able to relate to this when it comes to drumming, just any instrument in general. I talk about people's golf swing all the time. This is the best story. One of the coaches at one of the schools I used to teach at. Let me say that over because I slurred that a little bit. So I often relate your instrument to your golf swing. Because one of the teachers I used to work with at a middle school, he was a really avid golfer, and we would have car rider duty together, and he would be sitting there practicing his golf swing with an umbrella during car rider duty. And I think about that often because just like your golf swing or anything, if you slack on that one day, that's when it starts to go downhill. Every single day I tried to touch a guitar and I tried to touch a pair of drumsticks. Yeah. Every single day. As long as some days you don't get a whole lot in, but you have to touch your instrument at least once a day.
Yeah. I think that's the same idea about writing a song every day, is that you're not better just getting better at your instrument, you're getting better at telling that story. So I think vocally, maybe with the voice as my instrument, you have to work on it every day, and if you don't for a couple of days, you definitely notice. You'll definitely notice a difference in your pitch. And then if you don't, if you slack off on things, and this is one of those things that I think about with songwriting and stuff, because I've talked to so many people about writing, is that they talk about how, like, oh man, I really only write whenever I feel like something happened that I need to write a song about, and all that. And that's all well and good. It's respectable, and most of us do it that way for years. But the way I think about it is, if I do it every single day, whenever something comes around that's really song worthy, I'll be really good at writing a song.
Yeah, I'll be ready.
Yeah. Maybe do the story a little bit more justice.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think that's a very noteworthy thing, because a lot of people when it comes to writing music. They feel like inspiration is something that just like, it's like being struck by lightning. You're like, oh, I'm inspired. Let me go make art now. And one of my favorite quotes, it was by a songwriter I was reading a NPR article about, but the motto at his office is, it's 8 a.m., it's time to be creative.
Yeah.
You know, like you go to work, like it does, you know, if songwriting's your profession, just like any job, it doesn't matter how you feel. You still got to go to work,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
So it's disciplined creativity. And I think I think that you can treat that the same as practicing an instrument. And so I think it's along the same lines. Just do it every day.
Yeah, you can practice art. It's not something you can just you don't just wake up and are awesome at art. You can practice it, and songwriting is an art.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Well, man, we talked about, you know, pre-voice, post-voice, during voice. Mm-hmm. I'd love to have you back, man. I think you know, we're fresh off the show. You're definitely, I can't say getting your feet wet. You more like dove in to the music career thing. So I think you are definitely the ultimate guinea pig for what is a modern working musician.
Hope so.
So you know, we'll check back with you in a couple of months and be like, hey Keith, what are you still doing? What did you drop? You know, how's it going, awesome. And stuff like that. Where can we find you?
I am almost everywhere. I got music on Spotify, the EP that you and I did together, the Linden Avenue Sessions. On YouTube is Keith Paluso, Instagram Keith Paluso, Twitter Keith Paluso, Facebook Keith Paluso Music. What am I forgetting? I'm on YouNow as Keith Paluso as well. If you know how to spell Paluso Paluso, you can find me all over the place.
Surprisingly enough, Keith, Keith. I have a lot of people that text me who have known you for years that spell it Kieth.
That makes perfect. Yeah, maybe Paluso is easier to spell than Keith is.
I don't know. I didn't know Keith that was that hard to spell. But anyway,
normally they say I before E except after C, and then my name messes that
you
whole
just
rule.
Screwed the whole thing up.
My
Keith.
name's spelled wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, Keith Paluso everywhere. He is the third of 4 now.
Yep.
Because my nephew, his son, is Keith Paluso the 4th. But so he is. But he is pretty
I'm
much
the only
everywhere.
one. Yeah, I'm the only one on social media. I'm just Keith Paluso.
Okay, so you don't have any. Is that surnames? Isn't that what it is?
And there are no suffixes.
Suffixes.
Yeah, so everyone else is Keith Paluso Senior, Keith Paluso Junior. My son's not on social media at all. He's 1.
I hope he's not.
That'd be
crazy.
A little early.
What's up, guys? My name is Kip. This is my vlog. Like and subscribe for more.
Yeah, I grew another tooth yesterday.
We should get Kip on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very cool. Like I said, we will do a songwriting session with Keith for all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much for listening. Any closing thoughts, Keith?
Be your best.
Do your best. Be your best. Be the best version of yourself. All right, guys. Until next time, may your rolls be buttery, may your notes be always in tune, and may you stay at the grind. I'm Keegan Paluso, and this has been another episode of The Modern Working Musician. Peace out.